I work the night shift at my local airport. However, after the pandemic is over, I will be quitting right on the spot. I'm not sure if this will get me into some trouble, but I don't care. The force field of holding this thought in my head is falling apart. I found something disturbing at that airport. I won't give out my exact location, so let's just say I worked at a large international airport in the US. I didn't like the job, but my coworkers made up for it. I will hide their names for privacy reasons. We'll call them Jane and Parker. This all began on a busy Friday night. I arrived at the airport after enjoying a delicious chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. I worked at one of the gates towards the back of the main terminal at the airport. The one perk about working over there is that it is quiet most of the time. I'm not a fan of loud noises, although that's a bit ridiculous to say as commercial airplanes are insanely loud. I soon arrived at my gate and began working making sure the attendance for the next boarding time was in the green. Eventually came the time to board all the passengers. I started to scan each passenger's ticket. After the last passenger entered the gate tunnel that leads to the plane, I did a quick double check, making sure I scanned each passenger's ticket. I examined the monitor of the computer when I noticed I hadn't scanned this one guy. I headed down the gate tunnel and informed the flight crew that we are missing a passenger. One of the flight crew made the announcement about the missing passenger. Grunts and annoyed moans filled the plane. I went back up to the gate to call them over the loudspeaker. 2 minutes after the first call, he didn't come, so I did a second call. Once again, he didn't come to the gate. At this point, I was going to start doing final calls over the loudspeaker as I was, and I assumed all the passengers and flight crew were also getting impatient. All of a sudden, one of my coworkers, we'll call him Trey, told me that I was instructed to search the back halls of the terminal, as it was believed the missing passenger was located in that area of the airport. This caught me off guard, as I have never been instructed to go search for a passenger. However, I had to comply, as apparently the security guard who worked in that section called in sick for work. Trey would take over my position at the gate while I go searching for the missing passenger. I began making my way to the back halls of the terminal. When I got there, I scanned the halls looking for the missing passenger. I called out to him many times, but no response. As I made my way through the halls, I heard something coming from one of the storage rooms. It sounded like someone was messing with some of the storage containers. At first, I thought another employee was in there. However, a sinking feeling entered my body. Something didn't feel right. I began moving slowly to the storage room where the sounds were coming from. The sounds became more aggressive as I got closer to the door. I grabbed the doorknob, turned it slowly, and opened the door. I was first greeted in a dark room with some of the shelves in view. I didn't have a flashlight, so I scanned the walls for some sort of light switch. All of a sudden, the lights turned on by themselves. I assumed the lights were motion censored, but how were the lights off when I heard noises coming from the room? While questioning about this thought, I noticed something moving in the corner. Part of my view was obstructed by the shelf, so I couldn't tell what it was. I started making my way to where I saw the moving object or person. As I got closer, I could hear what sounded like someone was eating something. I called out, "Is somebody there?" No response. I rounded one of the back shelves and arrived at the corner where I saw it. What I saw will forever be planted in my memory until I leave this world. No one should ever witness what I witnessed. There was some sort of four-legged creature with rotten gray skin and lanky arms and legs. Its bones were showing, which made the creature more dreadful to see. It was feasting on a human, who I soon recognized as the missing passenger. I stood there frozen in fear, not wanting to make a single noise. But I had to escape, as I know that I will face my fate, whatever this thing is. I began quietly and slowly back away from the creature. I made it about halfway from the door when I heard footsteps coming from behind me. I stood stiff as a board, and then a horrid scream echoed through the storage room. The scream was brutal, more brutal than fingernails on a chalkboard. I began sprinting for the door, with the footsteps of the creature closing in. I busted through the door and slammed it shut behind me. The creature began banging on the door, combined with a horrifying wail coming from the creature. I ran away from the door and made a mad dash for my boss's office. When I got there, I told him what happened. He didn't believe me, but told me he'll send a security team to go check it out as he was a little concerned. The security team investigated the room, which turned up nothing. outside of a pool of blood on the floor where I saw that thing. There was a vent in the storage room, which the security team believed that's how the creature entered and escaped. The body was never found, and I got the hell out of that airport. It's been a few months since the incident and haven't recovered. I think what I saw was a Wendigo. However, the problem with that theory is that they are usually spotted in cold climates or forests, and the airport was nowhere near a forest. But whatever it was, I never want to see it again. I've been searching for possible jobs I could do after the pandemic is over, as I'm quitting once I get back to work. After I tell my boss I'm quitting, I will never return to that airport again. During the summer break of my junior year of high school, I worked as a McDonald's employee. I was 17 and pretty naive at the time. I desperately needed money to add to my college fund. My parents did not plan it out so well, so there was a high chance I wouldn't go to college if I didn't get a job. I was mostly busy during the whole day. I was a day person and wasn't very productive at night. During the day, I was either hanging out with friends, working out, studying, or learning and practicing for coding competitions to add to my portfolio. And usually at night I wasn't doing anything. The most productive thing at night was just some plain old written homework. And because I did not sleep a lot at night, I decided to kill two birds with one stone and take a night shift job. That way I could get paid for doing absolutely zero mental work and get my homework done. I applied at a lot of places, but I have to admit, I was a big fan of fast food, so fast food jobs were at the top of my priority list. So when I got a job at a McDonald's, it was a no-brainer for me. The McDonald's was located a bit on the outskirts of town, probably for travelers. But I didn't mind as long as was getting paid, and it is isolated also meant there would be comparatively fewer customers, so I might even get a chance to squeeze in another hour of sleep. I got into my dad's car and went to the store. It looked pretty dreary. The outside walls had a bit of mold on them. I entered the small building to be greeted by a middle-aged man standing behind the counter. He greeted me with a smile and a nod of acknowledgement. He took me to the drive-through booth, where I would be receiving orders, and explained how everything worked: the ice cream machines, the soft drink dispensers, and the fryers. After he had given me a quick tour of the building, he brought me back to the counter, took a deep breath, and said, "Hey kid, do you believe in ghosts and stuff?" "No, but why do you ask?" I inquired. "I know I'm gonna sound absolutely insane for this, but you'll have to follow some rules while working here. Now, I know all of them sound unbelievable, but trust me, they are as real as it gets. They could even cost you your life." I looked at him puzzled. "What are the rules? And has anyone been hurt or something?" I said. He pulled out his phone. He had multiple photos of teenagers who formerly worked here, but ignored the rules and have gone missing since. "Why don't you go to the cops?" I asked him interrogatively. "Because no one believes me," he said, his voice getting shaky. "They conduct a full area search. They think I am insane." He almost burst into tears, but composed himself and begged me to follow the rules and take them seriously. I said that I would, and his face lit up. He handed me the list of rules, thanked me, and left. I reluctantly smoothed out the piece of paper and started reading. List of rules for to survive a night. Rule 1. Keep the lights on the drive-through counter, where you'll hand the customer the food, at all times, with an exception to Rule 5. There's a creature just lurking nearby, waiting for the lights to go out and letting your guard down. Rule 2. There are security cameras next to the counter table. Always check who is in the drive. If the person ordering is in a black Range Rover Evoque with tinted windows, do not speak a word to him. He will stop bothering you if you ignore his angry threats and drive away in a few minutes. If you speak to him, however, he is going to break into your booth and attack you like a wild animal. God knows what entity he is that can mimic a human voice so perfectly. Rule 3. If someone orders fries, tell them you're all out, because you do not want to open a bag of frozen fries at midnight. Trust me. The scent will attract unwanted attention, and it'll end well for no one. Rule 4. If you hear your name being called from behind you, stop everything you're doing, lay down and close your eyes. You might feel teeth on your limbs, or giant talons rubbing against your head or torso, but please do not move. It'll be gone after you hear demonic giggling. Rule 5. If you see a 5-year-old girl with no eyes, standing in the driveway looking directly at the camera, lock all the doors and windows, and close all the lights, you might hear screaming, roaring, and screeching from the outside. Once it has been a minute since the sounds have ceased, turn the lights back on and continue with your job. Rule 6. If you hear people in the main dining area, do not check that out. No one is there, since the place will be locked. It's just another distraction by the creature lurking nearby. Rule 7. If the lights go out by themselves, chop off a toe or a finger. Place it on the drive-through counter and duck behind it. You'll hear low growls, followed by a quick snatching sound. Get up once the lights are back and check the counter. If your finger toe is missing, congratulations. You're gonna live to see another day. If the finger toe is still there, just pray to God it kills you quickly and doesn't take its time cherishing your screams. Rule 8. It is advised you do not sleep, because then you can miss your name being called, or the 5-year-old girl, or the laughing and talking sounds of people in the dining area, which can cost you your life. I was puzzled. If this was a joke, it was a terrible one, I thought to myself, just before noticing movement in one of the bushes in the drive-thru. Do you know how you think you can be brave and fight through fear during a fight-or-flight situation? Well, nope. Your body seizes up when facing the fear head-on without a warning. Somewhere in my heart, I believed this list was fake, or an elaborate prank, but I didn't want to take any chances. So I decided to comply with the rules. For the first hour of the night, literally nothing paranormal happened. I didn't even get a customer till then. This will be easy, I sighed and thought to myself. Flipping through the cameras every 20 minutes, I almost didn't notice the little girl peeking through a bush. Her eye sockets were devoid of eyes. I looked at them, and they seemed void of any human emotion. They were evil in a way. The more I looked in them, the more I wanted to cry. I was so fixated I almost forgot to switch the lights off, but remembered Rule 5. I got under the counter after switching off the lights, and I heard something slam against the left wall of the booth, like something big had lashed out and tried to break through the wall. Then I heard quick footsteps, followed by the cries of a little girl. The cries kept on increasing in intensity, to the point where I thought I would go deaf. I covered my ears, but could still hear her cries. The cries ceased within 30 seconds, and I heard a low growl. The growl was followed by the sounds of roaring and slashing of meat. The sounds were so disgusting that I threw up all over the floor. After collecting myself mentally, then getting up and turning the lights back on, I cleaned the puke and contemplated what I had just been through. Before I was even finished thinking about this, I heard people talking. The noise was very distant. I couldn't make out any words, just laughs, giggles, and overlapping voices. The night was eerily silent, so I could hear every little thing that went bump in the night. I was about to go check it out when I remembered some rules regarding this specific event. I reread the list and found it. It was Rule 6. I just had to ignore it and it'd go away. And so I did. I put on my earphones and started with some schoolwork. Almost 1 hour passed, and nothing happened when finally a customer came through the drive-thru. I served them, and was happy that people were starting to come now. I saw another car pulling up. I was really happy now. I wasn't alone in this hellhole any longer. My good mood was immediately put off when I saw it was a black Range Rover with tinted windows. I didn't speak to the angry man on the other side. He screamed his order, then said, "I know you're in there. Are you deaf, motherfucker?" I didn't reply and kept my cool. 10 minutes later, it was gone. My shift was over, and I got home, contemplating if this job is worth $200 a night or not. I wanted to quit, but the guy begged me not to, and that he would double my pay since I was so good at it. But I don't want to risk my life again. As a 22-year-old high school dropout, I really have little to no opportunities in this world. So I took up a night shift job at a 7-Eleven. Working late, one very cold September night, a man walks in. He looked like he'd just gotten completely smashed, then glued himself together and got smashed again. He walked, acted, and talked like a drunk person. He reeked of alcohol, like the worst smell of alcohol, but intensified. He goes over to the hot dog roller we have. They're hot bars that spin, basically cooking things like sausages, hot dogs, etc. We have it behind glass for the safety of customers. He goes over to it, pointing at the egg rolls, and then shouts, "Give me this," followed by a very obnoxious and low groan. Being forced to, I put on a smile and say, "Yes, sir, right away." I grab the egg rolls and stroll over to the register. His total was $2.60, but he only had a $20 bill. And we were out of fives and singles, so I say to him, "Sir, do you have anything besides a 20? We're out of small change." He says no in a very mopey tone, as if that's all he had, and has had for the past few weeks. I got the impression that he was homeless, so me being the nice person I am, I paid for him. He looked so happy as his wrinkly face would look. He started limping out of the store. When he got outside, he gets on all fours, claws at the packaging for the egg rolls, and chomps both of them up at the same time. I try to keep my reaction in, but I sort of flinch at the sight. He took off on all fours faster than any human would on both legs. About 16 minutes later, he and 5 other men crawl up to the store on all fours, thinking I can't see them. I was shitting myself beyond belief right there. As soon as they reach the door, they get up, all walking like drunks, the same way the guy did originally. They all want fucking egg rolls. What the fuck was I dealing with? We only had 3 left, and there were like 6 of them. So I say, "There's only 3 left, sorry guys, only half of you will get egg rolls." They all fucking screeched and howled at the same time. So me being a natural pussy, I say, "I'll be back, I'll go get some egg rolls." We make our egg rolls in store, for freshness reasons. I set them up, I tell them, it'll be about 10 minutes. They wait, and 3 of them stand up. About 8 minutes later, the first one gets up and lays his hands on the counter with the loudest clang that I had ever heard. I scurry over and say, "They're ready," with the biggest voice crack. They crack up, laughing like how a drunk person would, but they didn't seem drunk when they were running up to the store. I served them their egg rolls and told them it'll be $15 exactly. The original dude puts up the $20 bill, me having the instinct of survival, and I hand him back $5 from my own wallet. They scurry along with their food happily. Then, like the first one, they rip the things apart and chomp the egg rolls down in seconds and leave. We had a little donut store next door. The person who worked the night shift there was a really big prick. I hear them loudly crawling over next door, and the door loudly slams open. The guy shouts, "Hey, watch that fucking door!" Then I hear him say, "That'll be $12. Then heard him say, "If you only have $5, get the fuck out." After that, I hear some more clawing, and I hear water splash, and then a big thump. I never did hear the other door close, and outdoors are lightweight as hell, so we can hear basically anything that isn't a whisper. I hear dragging, and then silence. I go over next door during my 10-minute break, and there's nobody there, just a scuff on the floor, and scratches leading to the back as if something was being dragged and was holding on by its nails. It led out to the dumpster, where the guy who worked the night shift clerk was laying in it, scratched across his face and neck, with his head bleeding, with a giant gash on his right temple. There's a big hill behind a cement wall that closes off our stores. I saw 4 pairs of eyes watching me. Then in a flash, they were gone. I could have been the dead clerk if I wasn't so nice and helped them out. I've dreaded talking about this for a long time because of the pure anxiety that I'd be called a psycho and told that I'm retarded. If you work the night shift at a place that sells food, and if you see people that don't seem to act sober or just plain creepy, please take my advice. Be friendly.